Welcome to the KMC Collective podcast, where the KMC team brings you practical insights, creative ideas, and authentic conversations for children's ministry leaders. Each conversation is packed with strategies to help you lead with clarity, build strong teams, nurture families, and stay healthy in the process. Whether you're planning lessons, training volunteers, or seeking encouragement for the week ahead, this podcast is for you. We hope to make you laugh, cry, think, and maybe a bit of all three in each of our weekly conversations. This is the KMC Collective podcast. Let's jump into the conversation.
So I was with a group of new leaders not that long ago, and I asked them some questions and said, tell me some of the things that you're struggling with, you're wrestling with, that you feel stuck on. And earth-shattering newsflash, volunteers was a huge topic of conversation and questions with this group. And so I thought this week's conversation, we could build it around the idea of what would we say to leaders to help them build a healthy team? A team of volunteers. I like calling them teams. I don't really like calling it volunteers. But just kind of whether you're brand new to ministry or whether you're a seasoned leader, what would you do? What kind of questions would you ask? That's what we're going to talk about this week on the KMC Collective. I'm Tom.
I'm Cole.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Vicki.
All right, guys.
What is up, everybody?
What's going on, boys? What's going on, lady?
This is going to be a fun conversation talking about teams, because boy, it's easy to be negative about this and go, oh, woe is me. I never will have a healthy team or a big team or enough team or, I've got team quitting or, hey, I need to get rid of some team because they're toxic or they need a break or there's a lot to talk about. And this is obviously a never ending, every conference I've ever gone to, a vast majority of breakouts are all about volunteer building, and all that. So I thought, okay, it's time for the KMC Collective team to have a conversation, of how would we respond to some of these kind of questions. So I've got a list of questions from different leaders and I've shared it with the team here. And we're going to pick and choose some of these questions that we want to talk about around the virtual roundtable for this week's conversation. So, all right, I'm gonna kick it off. And because this is a big question that happens a lot to leaders, and it doesn't matter whether you're a seasoned leader or a new leader, every leader struggles with this idea of how do I set up my teams? If you were starting out and you were sitting across the table from a leader and they said, okay, I've got one service. What do I do? How do I build a team to be successful in nurturing kids and discipling kids? And then part two of this question is going to be, okay, well, what if you got multiple services? How do you structure your team? Is it different? Is it the same? What do I do? So what say ye, wise KMC crew? If you were advising a leader that was figuring out how to structure, what would be kind of your general structure? What would it look like if you were a one-service church to start with? And then we'll go to a multi-service type church. Go.
Okay,
I'll start.
I'll jump. Do you want to go, Vicki?
Go. Rock, paper, scissors, go.
Let's do it. Yes.
Vicki won.
She did.
So we're a little bit of in this season right now. We have some campuses that have multiple services, and then we have one campus that only has one service. And so how we handle this is different. And so if I was sitting across from somebody, one service, the model is harder. In volunteer culture building, it takes more work. Let's not even throw in the fact that if you're set up tear down at that one service location.
Yeah, there's a whole nother dynamic.
Yep.
There's another podcast.
Yep.
Don't throw it in. Don't throw it in.
But you do need to do things differently, because anytime somebody is serving, they are missing out on in-person service in the moment. And so what I would talk to somebody about and what I would say to them is you need to lead with so much vision and excitement for what people get to be a part of. They
That's good.
need to understand the
Yeah.
passion of serving in children's ministry. It's not a have to, it's not filling a spot. It's like you get to, you are getting to
Woo.
pour into these kids.
Preach.
Um, and I think that's where you start. And then you create a schedule and you share it with them. Uh, One thing I love to do is you have one service, you do serve every other week. I know you're missing service twice a month in person. And in person, your service is children's ministry where you are getting filled while you are filling the kids and teaching them.
There you go.
And then I would
Hmm.
share the best thing that you can do, one service, having people serve every other week, is they have a serving partner. So if
I like
Cole and
that.
I are is that preschool room lead, every other week we're sharing that. And so if I can't be there, I'm reaching out to Cole. And if Cole can't be there, he's reaching out to me. And we're
Yeah.
owning that every other week class
I like
um,
that.
in a
Yeah.
one service mentality,
That's
just
good.
true ownership.
That's good.
So that's
Yeah.
where I would start the conversation, and then I would see where it goes. What would you guys
Okay.
do?
Yeah. Change
So
it,
I came
add it.
from, I don't know if it's a complete change, but or I didn't work. I was a volunteer at a church. And well, I didn't do this because I really love kids ministry. So I just volunteered whenever I felt like it. But the way our structure was, is we actually had three teams.
Okay.
So there's a behind the scenes to that. So if you were at the church and you were an owner of the church, or you were a quote unquote member, you were required to serve in some capacity. And they didn't have specific children's ministry volunteers when I first started, but they had a rotating group every 3 weeks. This group was this then, and this, so like the kids knew specifically, like, well, week one we're gonna have Mr. Cole and so, and week two we're gonna have this person and this person, and so it allowed you to go to service 3 times, which was nice. But at the same time, I myself like your structure, Vicky, of the every other, because I don't have to find a third team of volunteers. So, from a volunteer recruiting standpoint, 2 teams is less than 3 teams. So,
Okay.
yes,
Okay. So let me throw the dynamic then in, because I think that's really good. What if you got multiple services? Does that still work doing every other? Do you go to an every week serve? Do you stay at one? I mean, I know churches, I've seen some multiple service churches only doing once a month. How do you figure out, Ben? How do you figure out what's best for your church? What do you look at?
Definitely check the health of the people that serve with you.
Ooh.
But
hmm
I strongly like the serve one, attend one concept. Like if you're gonna serve, I want you to be at church. So if you
Yeah.
work in second service, I'll see you at first service up
yeah,
front singing and worshiping
Mhm.
and listening and taking notes. What I want to highly encourage them as their leader. Like you got in order to pour out, you got to get poured into. And so
yep,
like
Amen.
in order to be healthy, in order to to serve the kids well, like get up earlier and go to church. Um, or stay a little bit later and go to church. It's a little bit easier to get them to stay later and go to church than it is to get up a little bit earlier. But um, yeah, just get some Jesus and then pour into the kids.
There you go.
I
I like
don't necessarily encourage them to do it every other week, but if like that is an option, like every other week or so, or twice a month. But the once a month, you lose that consistency, you lose that
yep,
opportunity. I call them renters, as you were talking about
Mhm.
owners earlier.
that.
yep,
Yeah, renters and
Those are the
owners.
ones
Yes.
that at the blink of something happening in their life, church is not the priority. So you want the owners and the people that are willing to go to church, the
That's
people that are
good.
willing to show up every week. Whatever you got to do, like you said, Vicky, cast that vision, because how you talk to them is how much that they're like passionate about what they're doing. But yeah, like
Yeah.
go to church and then go
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
serve these kids.
Yeah, that's good because having that team, we're always talking better together. Your
Yep.
teams will be better together, especially if you've got that consistency. I caught that word, Ben, and I think that's a critical word is no matter what you do, whether it's one service or two services, you need consistent teams because those kids need to know and trust the
Hmm.
people that are in their rooms because otherwise they're not going to open up. They're not going to give them permission to speak truth or to really get into their worlds because they don't really know who's leading them every week. And so I think that's one of the things, that I love what you guys have said there. Because yeah, I think having that consistent leadership and thinking through what's your culture, what's your community in your church, and what's that DNA flowing. So, all right, good start, guys. Good start. All right, Vicki,
Yep.
bring us another question here.
So, do we give volunteers time off? Can they take time off? Or when they
Oh,
sign up to serve for us, are they signing a contract that they serve
For
forever?
life. For
until
Right?
life.
Jesus comes
And
in blood,
I know
Yeah.
until
churches
Jesus
do
comes.
school year serving,
Yeah.
year-round serving, but what does it look like to give people time off? And so I have two parts to this, whether it's
Ooh,
like, right, you have consistent times of the year that they serve, but I want to go deeper. Do you give people time off, and how do you do this when they come to you and they need a season off? How do we handle that? What's our attitude like when
ooh, that's
I
good.
come to you, Ben, and I'm remodeling my kitchen this spring and I just can't make it to church for 2 months. So can I take the next 2 months off serving while I remodel my kitchen?
So I actually had this problem from a children's minister
Challenge.
perspective. It's a challenge. It's a
It
problem,
is.
especially
Yep.
if you're at a small church. So let's take
Yes.
it from the perspective of a
Yep.
small church.
There we
Hmm.
go.
You have this amazing teacher. She's great. She's teaching the kids. She loves on the kids. The kids look forward to seeing this person, but she's going through some stuff and needs the summer off. Going to renovate her kitchen or whatever the reason is that I almost said her excuse, whatever that reason is that she needs to step down. um my challenge to that person was this: I I'm 100% behind you. But as you can tell, like it would put a strain on the kids that you minister to every week. Can I challenge you to find someone, whether it's a parent or
Hmm.
a teacher that you can raise up, bring in the next couple of weeks to say, hey, I want to invest in you because during the month of July, I've got to step away and I want the kids to be in good hands. That turns her from like, I'm stepping out for a little while, sayonara, to I am now investing in someone and creating another me that will
Duplication.
Yeah.
continue that
Love that.
passionate teaching that those kids, like, they're not going to miss me much because they're still getting it. And when I come back, there's not going to be like, oh, we missed you so much when you were gone. um and so that was my challenge, and it seemed to work
That's
out
good.
pretty good because we
Okay.
got a couple
Yeah.
volunteers that became owners, as we were talking about earlier. Instead of renters, we had people that wanted to do more because that one lady invested in them and gave them an opportunity, even if it was just for a month.
Yeah, I love that
Good
because
stuff.
I know, right? Like I used a silly example, right, of somebody wanting to step away for a silly example, but we do have people who need to step away for medical reasons, for things going on in their life. And so, yeah, we want to be mindful that you will have people who need to step away. So how do you help them do that? Well, so
Hmm.
when because you want them to come back, right? If people
Yeah.
need to step away from your ministry, you want them to come back. So how do we have them step away? Well,
Well,
so I
that's
love
good
that.
because if you don't give them time off, you're not going to create healthy leaders. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of leaders
Mm.
think if I give my team member a break, they're never going to come back. And honestly, I have seen that disproven time after time after time, to the point where I started setting up my teams for seasons, and I set them up so that I had a school year team and I had a summer team. And my summer team consisted of a lot of parents who didn't serve during the school year. But I would give my regular small group leaders, and even when I served in a small church where I had 4 or 5 classrooms, I changed up the programming so that my team could have the summer off in that small church. When I got to a bigger church where we were running multiple services, I actually gave all of my small group leaders June and July off. They weren't allowed to serve anywhere around. And for those 8 weeks, we staffed it with parents. We changed up the programming. So we went away from our traditional large group, small group. We did more of a kids church model where everybody was in the room, and we stayed in the room for smaller groups so that the parents didn't feel so freaked out. We could do a simpler, quicker training for them. They didn't have to prepare a lesson. They just had to facilitate some questions, because we were doing a totally different thing, and we changed it all up, which the kids loved the change. The parents loved the simplicity. They also loved the fact that they actually got to see into the kids ministry. My volunteer team loved it because they got to breathe for
Mm.
8 weeks and
Yeah.
go do, and just be a child of God and go worship and rest. They were chomping at the bit when it came around to August, to get back into the groups.
I was
Um,
gonna ask how many of them came back.
oh,
So did you lose any of
all
them?
no, no.
Okay.
I
Really?
can honestly tell you, I
That's
didn't
awesome.
lose, and I gained volunteers because some of those parents saw what we did and how
Oh,
we did it,
Yeah.
and it
there it
made such an
is.
impression on them that they were like, sign me up for the fall. So I lost summer team members, but I gained school year people and fifth. Some of them came onto my fifth Sunday team.
Mm.
So I could even periodically give some of my team members a break. And so I had some of these parents say, I'll staff the fifth Sunday. And I'm like, boom, done, signed up. You're
There you
in.
go.
And so I do think, and then I had leaders who once they served for 3, 4, 5 years, they could take a year off, and we would substitute somebody into their group, or like I like Ben's idea. You had them go recruit somebody
Yep.
and do it with them for a few weeks. So that way the kids got used to that person, and then Miss Sally could step out for a year, and then come back, and run with it. So I think you got to fight the fear, and you got to embrace the suck and just go at it. Because it's hard. I'm not going to say it wasn't a lot of work to get 8 weeks of parents serving. We had to make a lot of phone calls. But I took the approach of, hey, if these parents are going to go staff concession stands for their kids' soccer games, and sell candy bars,
Hmm.
those then they can come in for a Sunday or two, during the 8 week break. So yes, I am all
That's
for
good.
giving breaks. Um, I'd even fire one if I had to, but that's for another.
Well,
Oh,
that is actually one that I want to ask
oh,
because what would
Somebody
you
else has got to answer
do?
this.
What would you do if you ever had this volunteer where you knew it's not healthy, you knew that it's just, bad juju, like you need to step away from kids ministry, kids aren't your thing. Um, what would you do if you had to fire a volunteer?
Release,
So
release.
I literally
repurpose.
just went through this like
Ooh,
last
all
week.
right.
So
Uh-oh,
Oh,
I
Okay.
pest
have
call.
he's gonna remain nameless. He might listen. I don't know. But I have a high schooler who his entire family except for one brother serves in kids ministry. Mom, dad, sister's brother. Like there's like
Wow.
6 of them. And so when he was a freshman, it was just like that's the thing. Our family serves in kids ministry, so I'm gonna go do kids ministry. And I'm just watching and he's now a junior. And I'm just watching him over the past 6 to 8 months and his energy level isn't there. His like joy for the kids isn't there. The smile that he once had when he was a freshman and sophomore, gone. And
Mm.
so his mom's my check-in person, and so I reach out to her and I go, "Hey, how's so and so? How do they feel?" And she's like, "I think you should have a conversation." I said, "I think I should too." I said, "I've been noticing some things."
Yeah.
And so I came up to him on a Sunday morning and I said to him, "Hey," I said, "This week, Thursday, can we meet at the coffee shop and can we just have a conversation? I want to talk to you about kids ministry." And he's one of the most gracious kids you'll ever meet. He's like, "Oh my gosh, yes, let's go. Let's talk." And so we
Finally.
get yeah, we get to the coffee shop and I'm sitting there, I got my coffee and I'm just sitting there kind of waiting for him because, he's coming out of school. And I said to him, I said, "Dude," I said, "I've been noticing some things. Tell me if I'm wrong." And I said my things and he didn't say anything. It was silence, crickets. I said, "All right, dude,
Uh-oh.
no, I don't want you to hold back. You're not going to hurt my feelings. How do you feel about Sunday mornings? How do you feel about your small group? How do you feel about your co-leaders? How do you feel about church in general and serving in kids ministry?" I said, "Don't hold back. I want to hear exactly how you feel." And he's like, "Exactly how I feel?" I said, "Every word. Tell me exactly how you feel." He goes, "I hate it. I absolutely hate it." And I said, "All right, now we can
Appreciate
talk."
the honesty.
There you
There you
So,
go.
go. It's
and
on the
so yeah, we
table.
talked, and I said, "Well, like, am I not fulfilling my what I'm supposed?" He's like, "No, no, it's not you." He's like, I've realized I don't like kids." So I'm just, I'm
Yep.
like, wow.
There we
So that
go.
was an easy one. I've had to fire two. That was an easy one because he kind of fired himself. But here's the thing.
But you gave him permission.
I gave him permission,
Yeah.
and at the same time, I'm not letting him off the hook. I told him straight up because like last Sunday was his last Sunday. He did to the end of the month, and then he was moving on. And I said, "But where are you moving on to?" And he goes, "Well,
Ooh.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know yet."
good.
I was like, "Where are you
Yeah.
moving on to?" He goes, I don't know yet. Maybe youth ministry with middle school. I don't know." And I said, "Okay." I said, "This can be your last." I told him this when we were meeting for coffee too, but I followed up with it last week when we had our last conversation. I said, "Listen, I'm not letting you fall by the wayside." I said, "You keep praying about it. Keep having your conversations with the people that you trust and that you love about direction and where to go." I said, "But I'm going to continually check in with you. Like at the end of
Wow.
next week,
So
after
good.
this is, not because he's not going to be there this Sunday, but the end of next week, I told him, I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to text you and be like, what are you thinking about?" Because I was like, I want to hand you off to a place that
Hmm.
you feel that could be the next step for you, and then give that leader that opportunity to speak into what could be next for you. Um, and
Gold
that
Good.
star.
he appreciated that, and we built actually a pretty good little like friendship out of it and stuff like that. I'm kind of sad to see him leave. It's a
Yeah.
little bit better than it was before, but yeah, no, I want to
That's,
see him. I want to see him transition well. I don't want to see him move
yeah,
into that next season of ministry. That's good and right for him.
that
So,
is so good discipleship. Bravo.
That's the kicker. You got to connect them. Like, don't let them
mhm.
go. Like, even though
Well,
they're leaving you, you got to
yeah, I
connect
have a
them to the
worse
next
one,
step.
but that I'll say for off topic,
Yeah.
off conversation. And it
It's
wasn't, and it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
it's hard when you have to release a volunteer and either they're not ready to
Hmm.
go or they don't see it coming. And
Mm.
uh,
Hmm.
I had to do that last year. And we are in it every single week. And so I think that was the good reminder for me is that we're in it. I'm seeing all of this. To me, I'm like, don't you see the writing on the wall? But I called her in because things were just not going well. It wasn't going well with me, wasn't going well with her. She was a coach, also wasn't going well with other people. And we just had to have a conversation. And
Hmm.
it kind of blindsided her. She didn't really
Yeah.
understand or see it. And so I think this is when it can be really, really hard, right? Because the goal is still to help
Hmm.
them see
Yep.
where God can really use them in the church. And so I think those are the tender hands that we need to walk with people through when it's the hard ones, when they don't see it. And so we had to release her from serving for 6 months. And we had really good conversation and we had check-in. And, after that, I mean, she is still not serving. She's working on some things, but we
Mhm.
still were in communication. And I'm not saying it always ends that way. It could end with them walking away, with them
Yeah,
being mad at the church. But
it happens. Yeah.
it
It
happens.
does.
But we were just like in tune with the Holy Spirit. I knew things were not going well, and I knew she was wrestling with some things in her home life and other things. And that she just needed to work on, right? And so sometimes releasing looks like Cole's um, volunteer, and sometimes it doesn't look that way. But I
Mm.
think if you go into it with grace and love, I think that can go a long way.
Yeah. I'll throw this in, and then I want Cole to take us into
Yeah.
the next thing. I think one of the things that as a leader, when we're facing that, a lot of us are conflict avoiders. A lot of us don't want to hurt people. And you're right, Vicky. We see the handwriting, we see this timeline that's so crystal clear, and for them, it feels like it came out of the blue. I mean, I've had that happen as a leader. I got blindsided by a church leadership
Mhm.
team that
Yeah.
I didn't see, but in their minds, they must have really thought that they had laid the groundwork because they couldn't understand how this blindsided me so badly. So I get it from,
Yeah.
I've had it happen to me.
Mhm.
But I think one of the things as a leader, we've got to be obedient and have those loving, hard conversations, speaking the truth in love, and realize that sometimes people aren't going to respond in a great way, but we can still love them and help them see it's not personal. And sometimes it's just going to be that obstacle, that challenge, what I call it, the EGR, the extra grace required team member. Those EGRs sometimes are damming up more growth from happening and bringing other people on. I had a situation with a couple leaders that were EGRs, and other children's pastors refused to ask them to take a break. I stepped in, got them to take a break. They got mad at me, called me all sorts of names, called volunteers, told them I was mean to them, and blah blah blah. I mean, they tried to drag me through the mud and run the bus over the top of me and back it back again. The thing was, I gained 6, 8 volunteers after removing them from leadership. So sometimes I was terrified. I didn't want to do this decision. I did not. I fought it for as long. And then finally, my senior pastor even heard about it, which wasn't good. I waited too long when he heard about it. So I just tell people, hey, if you know that it's hindering the body, you got to deal with it because
Mhm.
it's holding you back from growing. So, all right,
Mhm.
Cole, bring us home. What big question about team
So I had
building?
a couple, but the one that really stuck out to me because I had this happen to me my first day ever in kids ministry, and so I want to hear from you kids ministry
Oh boy,
veterans.
this is a baptism by fire question.
Yeah. What if a volunteer wants to do their own curriculum?
We go back to
Go.
the previous question.
Or
Ben's
or
running
they
for the
want to
door.
throw everything out the door on a Sunday morning and
Okay.
do their own thing. Like I'll give you my example. First Sunday in ministry, 24 years old,
Oh man.
large group storyteller tells me, "Cole, let's just throw it all out and just preach and tell the gospel. We're doing a gospel presentation today. Day one. Day one on a Sunday morning. This is what they asked me to do. So, what do you do?
And Ben has words I can tell.
He was running for the door. What do you? He's
That's
like,
because
peace, I'm out.
your day one was 2 or 3 years of my life at this one church,
Oh
fighting
wow.
with our fifth
Mm,
grade teacher,
Mhm.
Oh boy.
our small group leader. So yeah, like I can't wait to share my small, quick story about how they wanted to read a book instead of read the Bible, but it gave the gospel. Anyways, um, dude, you were up against like I would love that opportunity for you to share the gospel, but because this is my first week, let's stick to the plan this week, but let's talk about how we can incorporate that maybe next Sunday or the Sunday after. I definitely think you're onto something, leader, but this is short notice, not right, like because it's just bad timing.
Yeah.
Let's stick to the plan, but then let's create a plan together. That and like, hey, I've even had them write down exactly what you're thinking so that we can like, and I can look at it and see if
That's
it's a good
good.
fit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like champion their idea because he's got a heart and a passion for it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's just not now, not my
Yeah.
first day.
Yeah.
And not in the moment.
Not
Let's
in the
talk about it
moment.
ahead of
Yes.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Not before they're going on stage. Yeah. I think that's good, Ben, is that whole approach of help me understand what you mean by sharing the gospel. I want to know what that looks like to them. I would also then say, well, how do you feel like that's missing in our current curriculum? Help me understand, help me see where's this missing? Where, are we really lacking? I mean, because yeah, I mean, maybe they have a valid point. I mean, there are curriculums out there that, yeah, they don't share the gospel very clearly. But then again, it might be there and they just want to tell it differently or they want to share it differently. Or they're gonna, they want to sing, just 5 choruses of Just As I Am and have an altar call until every child has raised their hand. And they
Mm-hmm.
get them all saved every Sunday. Um, so I like the approach of help me understand, let's have this conversation, not right now.
Not right now.
And let's stick to the script, and go from there. But when you've got a leader that wants to go rogue, that's why you have to be very clear on your why, and you've got to be clear on your end goals. As a leader, if you have not written down what your end goal is for the kid who comes into your ministry and leaves your ministry, you better get it down, because let me tell you, I've had it where that document, that clarity, saved my hiney when it came to this kind of conversation, because that leader discovered that I had a plan and that I had evaluated and chosen a curriculum that fulfilled that plan, and they just didn't understand it. Um, it's also where I had to release a volunteer because they couldn't get on board with that plan and they wanted to do it differently. And I said, well, you know what? God called me here. The church has asked me to fulfill this role as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
I have to lead. And if you can't get on board with us, then maybe your season is done here and maybe we can help you go find a new spot to roll in. So I think sometimes you have to know where your end goal is and you've got to be able to hold that line, because otherwise you're going to have every leader going off in 6 million directions and you're going to lose it. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. I
and then you
think
can start a forest fire.
Yeah, I think it's important for us as the staff leaders, or if you're a volunteer leader, to onboard people well and let them know exactly what is expected of them as they're onboarding. So, what is their bowling alley? What is like, where is the gutters? Where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
we want you to teach from an aspect of like use your personality, but you don't get to, where are the parameters? Like you don't get to add scripture from the New Testament if we're in the Old Testament. So I think what I have learned is it's really, really helpful to set them up in training and in the 30-day reminders, because we do want them to teach authentically,
Mm-hmm.
but we do have to have boundaries. I will say this to our volunteers all the time. If you're in multi-site, you're teaching across 6 or 8 or 9 campuses, and you're putting out on social media to all your parents that you learned about Jonah, you need to make sure at every campus, at every hour, those kids learned about Jonah.
Yeah.
And so that's just one example of like teaching them the
It's
why,
true.
but if
Yeah.
you're in kindergarten, you're going to teach it one way. If you're in fourth and fifth grade, you're hopefully not teaching it the way you're teaching it in kindergarten. But that has been so helpful for us
It's
in
good.
at least bringing them around to why we have the parameters in the curriculum choices. And then sometimes they're just not a good fit, and that's okay too. But I love that, Cole. Have them find their place. We are all created and gifted and made to
Mhm.
serve in the church. And so everyone is not made to serve in children's ministry, but I think it's our heart that we need to make sure that we're helping them find their place.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm
that's good
so
stuff.
pumped up. I'm ready to go like lead some volunteers. Like, why is it not Sunday yet? Let's
I
go.
got a lot of work to do, Ben.
They
Let's
are
not
the
wish for
heart of our
Sunday yet.
ministry.
This
Like
has been
So,
good. Let's
we
go.
can't do
Yeah,
it
man.
without them.
No,
no,
we
Yeah.
can't.
Oh,
No, we
no
can't.
doubt.
no
So
doubt.
let's go after it. And hey, if you're stuck, if you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I like some of your ideas, but I'm not sure how I put this in place in my context, guess what? You can go to kmccoach.net. You can hit the clarity call button with any one of the four of us, and we would love to have a 30-minute conversation with you about how we can help this, how we can give you an idea, or maybe get you some clarity that would break through this feeling of, oh, I just don't know how to build a team, or I just can't get over the hump with X number, or I'm not even sure how to set up an onboarding plan, or I need to fire a volunteer and I'm not sure how to talk about it. Have that conversation. Hey, we would love to listen. We would love to hear from you. But we would also love to know in the Kid Ministry Collective Facebook group, what are you doing to build a healthy team? How would you answer some of the questions that we've talked about today? Put those in the KMC Facebook group. We would like to keep this conversation rolling because it's an important one that we all need. We need to have
And
this.
if you
So
talk to Cole, he might tell you that you're in the wrong spot and you should be in the coffee bar or something. I don't know.
Or Ben
I'll
might,
pay for
or Ben
coffee.
might
I
jump on a
will.
call and help you fire a volunteer.
yeah, there
Yeah.
we go. There we
Yeah.
go.
I've got
You
good
never
and
know.
bad stories about that. I told you the good one. I did not tell you the bad one.
So if you want to know the bad one, set up a clarity call with Cole. There you go. All right, my friends. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode and this conversation of the Kid Ministry Collective, the KMC podcast. And so I'm Tom.
I'm Cole.
I'm Vicki.
And I am not Ben. And thank you all for being with us today.
We're out.
Hey, friend, that wraps up the KMC Collective podcast for this week. Thanks so much for listening. If today's episode sparked something, an idea, a heartbeat, or a fresh start, drop us a line at tom@tombump.com or reach out on social media. We'd love to hear your story and keep the conversation going. Remember, you're not just doing kids ministry, you're shaping the next generation's faith with intention and care. Be encouraged, be creative, and take a breath. You've got this. Catch you next time on the KMC Collective podcast.